us, Hemang Jani, Prakash Gabha and Mitesh Thakkar to take us through the closing minutes of trade. Hemang, wanted your thoughts with regards to a stock such as CSB. I mean, it had a very strong listing, but if you look at it now, it's actually fallen from a cliff.
So what happens, Ekta, is that typically when there is an IPO, there is a lot of hype around it, and there is a HNI, a funding-based investment, etc. But the fact of the matter is that the in the banking and financial services space, the larger ones, or where there is a far more visibility, is where there is a good amount of buying interest. So, for the smaller banks where the promoter background or the NPL quality, etc. is not very, clear, people are staying away from it. So, maybe there might be some amount of sell-off because of funding related issues or concerns on NPL. We don't cover the stock, so I don't have a, specific view. But the broad theme is that you stay and stick to the larger private banks, corporate banks, where there is a good amount of visibility in terms of growth with stable asset quality.
Okay, well, tomorrow is also going to be quite an interesting day in terms of numbers. We have BPCL, Nestle, Page Industries, Apollo Hospital, Vodafone Idea, where that stock is in fact down around 6% odd. Hemang, any hopes from Vodafone Idea and what they could deliver tomorrow?
Well, no real hopes as such, given the fact that this entire debt plus the price hike which has been taken. I think the overall earning visibility and the growth picture is much better for a player like Bharti and Reliance. So Vodafone, maybe revenue growth may be okay, but I think people have their doubts about the overall survival and how the company is going to deal with this AGR and debt related issues. So not really banking too much from Vodafone in tomorrow's numbers.
Okay, all right, Hemang. Well, we do have Shireen, who is in fact in conversation with all of the heads of the top three tech giants. So maybe we can cut to that right now.
Just to put how important this is into context, a combined market capitalization for the three of them of over 12 lakh crore rupees. The number of employees that they currently have between the three of them is 864,454 at last count. Big deal wins. Just in the third quarter, 1.8 billion for Infosys, 6 billion for TCS. Rishad, what's your number? Why don't you share that number? Okay, we'll have to listen to the analyst call. All right, so let's get things started. What we're here to talk about is turbulent times, technology and talent, and how these three leaders are navigating their individual companies through these turbulent times, but also where we are going to see the Indian IT services industry over the next decade. I'm not just going to focus on individual companies, but I want to talk to them about where they see the landscape for the industry. Rajesh, let me start by asking you, and I've had the privilege of discussing this with the three of them individually, but this is the first time that the three of them are together on a single platform, so I think it's going to be a lot more enriching and hopefully much more provocative.
Okay, well, we're just going to cut back into that conversation in just a second, but just want to close out trade for you now. Well, it's turned out to be a day where we are definitely seeing follow-on buying. So we have the Nifty, which is up around 95 odd points, Sensex up around 350 odd points. But there is that underperformance which is seeped in for the mid-cap index today as well, down around 0.2%, and the advanced decline ratio, which is on the negative terrain, on the declining terrain, which stands at around 1,050 stocks advancing, 1,530 stocks declining. In terms of a couple of stocks within the frontline space, HUL has to be hands down the stock of the day today. So up around 5 odd % for that one. Hindalco reacting negatively to its numbers, so that one was a bit of a miss. So Hindalco should come up for you, but recovered nonetheless for that particular stock. We have Yes Bank, which was down and out in today's trading session, something like an IndusInd Bank also, which lost out a little bit. But Kotak Mahindra Bank giving company to the likes of HUL on the upside, and Nestle, which comes out with its numbers tomorrow, was also up around 1.7%. From the broader markets, there was more about result reactions as well as the Wockhardt Dr. Reddy's deal. So Wockhardt ended lower in the red. ABB, PFC, Wellspun, Ipca Labs, all of them reacting to numbers. ABB weak, Ipca higher, PFC also a bit sluggish. We had Bandhan Bank because of the MSCI review, so that stock was in focus. A couple of the gas stocks did well, so Mahanagar Gas was higher. HEG, which reacted very negatively to its numbers, so down around 10% for that particular stock. And within the banking space, there was Allahabad Bank, which reacted negatively, and a couple of others such as Spark and Spencer's, which stood out on the downside. But now that's the market closing. Let's now cut back to Shri.
How we reimagine the services industry going forward.
So the biggest shift has been that if you were to think about the big technology changes that happened over the last couple of decades, we were always on a catch-up mode. The start of the technology wave was typically much earlier before we brought up to it. Whereas over the last few years, if you take the elements of what we call as digital transformation, and even more so when we're coming at automation, we are the originators of this change. We are at